Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Today we've got 10 fast but deep updates shaping AI hardware, funding, and privacy as of October 2025. We'll lead with a big OpenAI DevDay tease, dig into a secretive hardware push with design star involvement, and run through funding, regulation, and product moves that matter to developers and consumers. Stick around, hit like and subscribe if you want crisp, reliable tech coverage. Let's dive straight into story 1. OpenAI just announced a DevDay on October 6 in San Francisco and called it bigger than ever. Developers are braced for major model or platform reveals, new APIs, SDKs, maybe pricing or enterprise features. That matters because anything OpenAI ships can shift developer focus, cloud compute demand, and prompt responses from rivals. If you build on their stack, watch today closely for breaking changes. Coming up next, a surprising hardware project tied to OpenAI's design play. The Financial Times reports OpenAI, after acquiring a famous design firm, is building a palm-sized, screenless, always-on-eye device with top industrial designers involved. But the project faces big technical and privacy hurdles. Edge compute limits, sensor choices, and data collection policies are all under debate. If it works, it could create a new consumer AI category. If it fails, it raises questions about cost, trust, and regulation. Next, we'll look at how funding and valuations are shifting around these moves. Markets and investors are still adjusting to big AI company moves. Funding rounds and valuation chatter keep shaping strategy and hiring. Startups may accelerate product launches while incumbents chase defensive investments. For developers and customers, that often means faster feature rollouts but also more consolidation risk. Stay tuned as these financial shifts will influence the pace of new tools and pricing. Up next, regulatory pressure and what it might mean for product rollouts. Regulators worldwide are sharpening focus on data collection and model transparency, especially for always-on devices and consumer-grade AI. Companies will likely need clearer consent flows on device controls and audit logs to avoid fines and reputational damage. That's a practical concern for developers planning integrations or new hardware. Next, we'll shift to a product news update with potential developer impact. With DevDay and funding momentum, expect new SDKs and expanded APIs aimed at making model integration easier, especially for real-time and edge scenarios. That could lower barriers for startups, but also mean more locked-in ecosystems for long-term contracts. Developers should watch SDK licensing and performance benchmarks before committing. Next, we'll cover cloud compute implications tied to these launches. If new models or always-on devices roll out, cloud and edge compute demand could spike, pressuring pricing and capacity. Enterprises may need to renegotiate contracts or consider hybrid deployments to control costs. For startups, rising compute costs could squeeze margins and slow prototypes. Coming up, how this affects consumer product timelines and go-to-market strategies. Enterprises need to reevaluate procurement timelines as AI vendors roll out new enterprise features or pricing. Legal and security teams should be included early to assess data flows and SLAs. This is a buying cycle that could lock customers into platforms for years, so pilots and exit strategies are critical. Next, we'll look at startup and talent shifts driven by these industry moves. The AI race is reshuffling talent. High demand for model engineers, ML ops, and product designers means higher salaries and strategic hires. Watch for acquisitions that are as much about talent as technology. For teams, that means upskilling and focusing on measurable product outcomes to stay competitive. Up next, how consumers might actually interact with emerging always-on devices. Always-on devices promise seamless help, but UX trade-offs matter. Privacy controls, latency, and contextual accuracy will determine adoption. Designers need to balance convenience with clear control. Early user testing and transparent defaults will be key to building trust. Next, we'll summarize what developers and consumers should do right now. Quick actionables. Developers should sandbox new SDKs, benchmark costs, and include legal early. Enterprises should review procurement and SLAs. Consumers should demand clear privacy defaults. Watch DevDay announcements and earnings calls for concrete changes, and keep an eye on regulatory guidance. That wraps our 10 stories. Now for the outro. That's the roundup for October 5-6, 2025. Big events like DevDay and secret hardware projects are going to shape both developer priorities and consumer expectations for months. If you found this useful, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our DevDay coverage live. Drop questions or tips in the comments, and I'll highlight the best ones in the next episode. Thanks for watching. See you next update.